The ARMANZ the Magnificent Fusion event is live right now, boys. What is up, guys? This is Cobb, and in this video, we're going to be covering just how expensive ARMANZ the Magnificent is going to be. How much energy are you probably going to have to spend throughout all of the events to get your hands on this guy? How many shards are you going to have to spend, and therefore, how much real-life cash are you actually trading in to get your hands on this guy? How much silver are you going to have to spend? We're going to be covering the lot. And then we're going to be talking about whether or not he is worth it or not. And to be honest, that's good up to you guys, man. So, first of all, his reviews. Is he a powerful legendary? You goddamn right he is, especially in PvP, right? Arena offense, arena defense, people who lucked out and got him early on. He obviously has crazy good reviews, insanely brokenly overpowered in PvP, but honestly, a bit of a Giga Chad in a lot of PvE scenarios as well. He is a sheep-based champ with a ton of turn meter manipulation effects woven into his kit as well. Now, as with all fusion events, obviously the catch is that he is limited time, so you've only got a couple of weeks to actually earn this dude, and in order to do so, you've got to be farming the fragments for 4 copies of Khafru, the epic void champ, as shown right here. And getting your hands on the fragments required for 4 Khafrus is where the real challenge is. So, let's get into it, boys. Welcome to the Fusion Event Calendar. This thing basically breaks down all of the events that are going to be running over the next couple of weeks. As you can see, you can earn 25 Khafru shards from each of these events, so long as you perform adequately in them. What exactly does that mean? How much is each of these events actually going to cost you if you want to earn the Khafru shards in all of these? That's what we're going to break down. Before we do, if you're starting out a fresh Raid Shadow Legends account, make sure to do so by clicking the link down below in the pinned comment, and you'll be starting off your fresh, tasty new account with the free epic champion, Juliana. And all you got to do is click the link down below and get your account to level 15. You'll also get your hands on a whole ton of free starting supplies, including 500,000 silver, just to help get your feet off the ground, and it's gonna be awesome. So make sure you do that. Alright, man. So in order to actually fuse ARMANZ the Magnificent with your 4 Khafrus, obviously you're going to need 400 fragments in total. Now, that happens to be the exact amount that you get for collecting the Khafru fragments in every single one of these events, though you can earn an extra 50 on top of that via the Hero's Path. But for the most part, you're gonna want to be hitting the Khafru shards in every single one of these events. What is that really gonna cost you? Dragon Tournament. Let's start there, man. In fact, you know what? Let's just break it down in averages for the Dragon Tournament, the Ice Golem Tournament, the Fire Knight Tourney, and Spider, right? Because they're all going to cost roughly similar-ish amounts, and it's sort of difficult to estimate just how much energy you're going to need to actually sink into these to hit the fragments, because it really just depends on what kind of team you're running, what kind of stage you're able to farm, stuff like that. So we can quite easily estimate, I don't know, 1,500, maybe 2,000 energy for each of these tournaments as a baseline. What you really want to be focusing on while these tournaments are active is blasting the hell out of these tournaments whilst the Dungeon Divers events are active as well. Because obviously, while you're farming artifacts in each of these dungeons, that is what's going to progress you along the Dungeon Divers events track. So, as long as you are blasting these tournaments with as much energy as you can, and, you know, spending gems, what have you, to refill your energy and blast these at the right times, you should be able to get a good amount of double up and efficiency with things like the Dragon Tournament and Ice Golem Tournament with the Dungeon Divers events, right? And likewise, it's quite important for efficiency's sake that you're not farming, for example, the very end of the Ice Golem Tournament if you don't have to, while there is not a Dungeon Divers event active, right? You're going to have to get your timings just right, but if you do that, you should be able to make it somewhat energy efficient. I might actually be slightly overestimating how much energy you're going to need to put in these tournaments, by the way. 2,000, maybe that's a little bit of a push. I don't think you'll need to sink in quite that much to get the fragments. But so next up, the Champion Training Tournament, and a little bit later on during the Fusion event, we have the Champion Training Event. Both of these obviously very similar. Get levels, rank up your guys, skill books, work in the Champion Training Tournament in order to farm up your points. Just level and rank up your champs. Easy enough, right? Well, it's gonna probably cost, if you're doing this mostly with energy, by the way, and just blasting Stage 12 campaign, right, on Brutal, it's probably going to set you back about 3,000, maybe even a little bit more energy before you get your hands on the fragments in the Champion Training Tournament and in the Champion Training event. So that's 3,000 energy each. Bear in mind that you're going to have to do this on top of farming the Dragon Tournament and the Ice Golem Tournament, and also the Fire Knight Tournament and the Spider Tournament as well for the Champion Training event. So it's going to be a hell of a lot of energy that you're pumping out very, very quickly. You're going to need about 2,000, like 1,500, 2,000-ish gems saved up to be refreshing your energy a lot during these big grind phases of the Fusion event. If you don't have that, give up now. Well, not really. If you have a hell of a lot of brews saved up, we're talking like in the hundreds for each brew, your account is quite mature and you're quite well set up to take on these events, then with a lot of brew usage, I don't think it'll be costing you like 3,500 energy. You know, you could probably knock it down by quite a bit. But if you don't have hundreds of brews saved up for each affinity, then yeah, be prepared to drop a few thousand energy on each of these events. Not to mention a whole lot of time, by the way. These two events right here, easily the most time intensive. So honestly, so far, so fine, I think, right? It's just a hell of a lot of energy that you're going to have to pump into each of these events if you're going to want to get them done and actually pick up the fragments. The Classic Arena Takedown Part 1 and the Classic Arena Takedown Part 2, also pretty simple. What you want to be doing in these events is set an arena defense team of just like a 1-star, like useless piece of crap champion that's just going to tank your rating, right? You don't want to actually get too high rating in these events or during these events. You want to kind of let your rating, you want to lose every defense battle, and you want to lose them often is what I'm saying, right? Because the lower rating you are and the lower your rank is, the easier it's going to be for you to just kind of blast out some wins and farm up these Classic Arena Takedown events. These are going to be by far the easiest to get done and pick up the fragments. Just some little freebies here. Now, this is where things get a little bit saucy, right? Let's cover the Summon Rush and the Champion Chase Tournament expensive. These things are going to be quite costly, and if you have not prepared for this event for, I don't know, a couple months in advance and you've been holding on to Void Shards in particular, then these events are going to be extremely, extremely tough for you to justify picking up the fragments on. Really, really hard to get done. In the Summon Rush event that is currently active right now, you need 3,150 points in order to pick up the 25 Kafru fragments. What does that actually translate to? We've done the math, don't worry about it. 157 Ancient Shards. Yeah, you don't want to be using Ancient Shards in these events. Seriously, man, it's not good. 157 Ancient Shards translates to $157 worth of value, by the way, if you're ripping open those shards purely for the Summon Rush event. If you are opening your Sacred Shards, it's going to take 6 Sacred Shards to get you just under the amount that you require to get the Kafru fragments, and then you can push yourself over the edge just a little bit using, you know, Mystery Shards or whatever. And 6 Sacred Shards are priced at around $75, which, by the way, I'm using the Hell Hades pack calculator tool to kind of estimate the market value of shards for these calculations. So about $75 if you're going to use 6 Sacred Shards. But coming out on top, Void Shards are the best value. If you have 26 Void Shards saved up, then you can basically pick up these fragments using just those 26 Void Shards, and that will come out at a market value of about $55 to pick up these fragments. And to be honest, this is where a lot of people are just going to close the video. It's at this point that I gave up on ARMANZ the Magnificent, because even if I had those shards to spend on this Summon Rush event to get these fragments, which I don't because my account is just too young to do so, yeah, you're going to basically have to do it all over again for the Champion Chase Tournament. So again, unless your prep is all set and you have a huge kind of backlog of shards that you've been saving up for an event just like this, then hell, I don't know, man. Unless you're ready to swipe, you're probably not going to get your hands on these fragments, man. Now, also quite concerning for me, being a fairly new account, I don't have that much silver on my account. I have about 8 million silver at present, and it goes quite quickly. The Artifact Enhancement event, if you want to get your hands on these shards right here, you're going to be spending between 12 and 20 million silver per event. That's 12 and 20 million silver for event number 1, event number 2, and event number 3 separately. Okay, it's kind of RNG dependent. You might get lucky and might low roll. Christ, you might only spend 10 million on the first Artifact Enhancement event, and then you might end up spending like 24 million on the next one. It's quite hard to predict, but between 12 and 20 million is about a good estimate. So unless you've got like 40 or 50 million silver in the bank already, then yeah, this is another one of those kind of brick wall events especially if you're somewhat of a newish player and you don't have a huge amount of silver in the bank, then hell, you're going to get a little bit wrecked by these events. Now, what we're going to do is take up all of the resources that we've just talked about on this chart, and we're going to punch them into the Hell Hades pack price calculator and just get an estimate of how much you could theoretically buy to complete these events and what their market value would look like in order to pick up ARMANZ the Magnificent. Why? I don't know. It sounds funny, so let's do it. All right, man, let's do this. I've already input 6,000 for the dungeon tournaments. That's the Dragon, Ice Golem, Fire Knight, and Spider tournaments, which I think 6,000 is maybe a little bit of an underestimation, but we're just going to put that in anyway for all 4 of those tournaments. Next up, for the Champion Training Tournament and the Champion Training Event, let's add like another, like, I don't know, 6,000 to this, maybe 6,500 to this. Again, it's very account dependent how much you're actually going to be spending on either of those events, depending on how many brews you have on your account and stuff like that. But I think like 3,000-ish energy for each of those events to get the Kafru fragments is going to be about right. For Void Shards, we're looking at 26 per Champion Chase and Summon Rush event, as an estimate at least. And so that's going to be 52 Void Shards in total. For Silver, it is 3 Artifact Enhancement events, which if we just put the estimate somewhere in between what I said before, so maybe 15 million silver per event, you're looking at 45 million silver total. Just checking my zeros there. Looking good. And next up, given that the maximum amount of energy you can regenerate per day completely without spending a dime is about 900 energy over the course of 2 weeks, unless you manage your energy absolutely perfectly, you're almost definitely gonna have to spend a decent amount of gems for energy refills. Probably more than this. Let's leave it at 500 to be conservative, because remember, by the way, you're going to need more energy than this as well, because you do have to, within the 2-week period of this fusion event, level up your Kafrus all the way to level 50 and fully 5-star ascend them to actually use them in the ARMANZ fusion. That's quite important to remember, so that you're not panicking in the final days of this event. You know what I'm saying? So you're almost definitely going to be spending some gems for energy refills just to farm those guys up and yeah, get them fully ascended. And so what are we looking at here, man? This is the market value of basically buying ARMANZ. Oi, almost 200 US dollars. Is he worth all of that amount? Probably not, but obviously a lot of these resources, if you have prepared properly for this event and your account is quite mature, you've got a lot of resources in the bank, then you're going to have, hopefully, most of these resources already stockpiled, right? And this is just going to be a matter of really getting your grind on over the next couple of weeks to hit them. But still, it's a fun little thought experiment just to see how much market value you're actually pumping into an event like this in order to unlock the champ. And I mean, market value is a relative term. These are just in-game items at the end of the day, you know. How much value do they really have? Well, you can only really discern that by comparing them to the value of other items and coming up with Raid's own little kind of in-game economy. But still, it's interesting to look at just as a thought experiment, man. What do you guys think? And are you going to be blasting this fusion event on the hunt for ARMANZ? Hey, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you also did enjoy. If you did, make sure to click like below the video. Helps out the channel a lot. Make sure to subscribe as well for future videos just like this one. And if you're starting out a fresh Raid Shadow Legends account, make sure to do so by clicking the link down below in the pinned comment to start off your fresh account with a free epic champion in the form of Juliana. Thanks for watching, everybody. Do enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to catch all of you all just a tad bit later, man.